Here is a cleanly rewritten, long-form version of the article with improved structure, flow, and clarity, while preserving all key facts, quotes, and context. It reads like a fresh editorial piece rather than a rehash. Rob Kearney believes Jamison Gibson-Park must be the man to reignite Irish rugby this weekend, shift a growing sense of unease, and restore belief ahead of the 2026 Six Nations Championship. The former Ireland and British and Irish Lions fullback has also played down suggestions that Leinster could act as the perfect entry point. For Ronan O'Gara, should the IRFU look to bring the coaching great home as a long-term successor to Andy Farrell. Ireland are now just 4 weeks away from beginning their Six Nations campaign, with a daunting Thursday night opener against reigning champions France in Paris. Les Blues enter the tournament as odds-on favorites to retain the title, while Ireland arrive searching for momentum after an unconvincing autumn and an uneven start to the club season. From dominance to doubt. The current mood around Irish rugby is a stark contrast to the confidence of recent years. No nation has won more Six Nations titles over the past decade than Ireland, a period of sustained success underpinned by Leinster's dominance in Europe. The Dublin province have reached more Investec Champions Cup finals than any other side in that timeframe, consistently supplying the backbone of the national team. That sense of strength deepened further when Ireland contributed a record 17 players to this year's British and Irish Lions tour, with an unprecedented 12 coming from Leinster alone. It should have been the ultimate validation of Ireland's player pathway and high-performance system. Yet just months later, optimism has given way to anxiety. Ireland were convincingly beaten by New Zealand in Chicago, before being physically overpowered by South Africa in Dublin. At provincial level, Leinster and Munster have both endured stuttering starts to their United Rugby Championship campaigns, leaving supporters uneasy as European competition resumes. There's a fair bit of concern about Irish rugby at the moment within the four corners of our own island, Kearney admitted. And to be perfectly honest, I think it's fair enough. The former fullback, who won 98 caps for Ireland and the Lions during a glittering career, was candid in his assessment of recent performances. If we look back to the November internationals, I wasn't particularly surprised by the level of Ireland's performances or the results, he said. The provinces are struggling to find form as well, and that feeds into the national picture. The post-Lions hangover. Kearney believes the context of a Lions year cannot be ignored, even if it offers only partial explanation. I know from experience that the season after a Lions tour is very difficult, he explained. Mentally, it's hard to get yourself up for it. You've played a huge amount of rugby the year before, and you're often carrying niggles into the new season. Still, he was clear that such challenges are not excuses. It's not panic stations by any means. We're mid-cycle in terms of a World Cup and there is time, but you would like to start seeing signs of progress pretty soon. That sense of urgency brings added significance to this weekend's Investec Champions Cup fixtures. Leinster host Ronan O'Gara's La Rochelle on Saturday, while Munster travel to Toulon on Sunday. For Kearney, these matches represent opportunities for Ireland's leading players to step forward and inject confidence back into the system ahead of the Six Nations. Gibson-Park the catalyst. Central to Kearney's thinking is Jamison Gibson-Park, the Ireland and Lions starting scrum half who has set world-class standards over the past several seasons. It's unfair and equally very fair to highlight him, Kearney said. When Jamison plays well, Leinster and Ireland are just on it. The speed of ball, the sniping around the fringes, his kicking game, he's a constant threat. Kearney described Gibson-Park as a player whose influence extends far beyond his own position. His form for the last 3 or 4 years has been right up there with the best scrum halves in the world. He's been pulling out 9s and 10s out of 10 week after week. At the moment, very few Leinster players are at the peak of their powers. Jamison is someone others naturally look to in those moments. If he can rediscover his very best form and get that tempo high again, everyone else will follow. Autumn warning signs. Much of Kearney's concern can be traced back to Ireland's autumn opener against the All Blacks in Chicago. Ireland led by 10 points before conceding 3 late tries to lose 26-13. You had a lot of guys going straight into that game without having played a huge amount of rugby, Kearney said. They were facing a very battle-hardened New Zealand side. You could see Ireland were competitive for the first 50 minutes, and then they just fell away. The subsequent clash with South Africa only heightened those worries. South Africa are riding the crest of a wave at the moment. We tried hard, but in truth the scoreline flattered us a little bit, he admitted. While Kearney acknowledged the cumulative effects of a Lions year, he stressed that professional standards must still apply. It does take an extra effort to get yourself up for it post-Lions, but that's not an excuse. It's their job. That's what they have to do. What disappointed him most was the lack of rebound at provincial level afterwards. You'd have hoped that after November the players would go back to their provinces, find form and build some confidence, but that didn't really happen. Instead, Ireland now faced the prospect of returning to Paris on the back of mixed performances and growing scrutiny. It's a little bit unrelenting in terms of the challenges being thrown at them, but they would have known this was coming, Kearney said. I remember looking at the fixture list back in October and thinking that Paris game was going to be a tough one. Leinster, La Rochelle and O'Gara. Despite the broader concerns, Leinster remain unbeaten in the Champions Cup this season, having edged past Harlequins and Leicester. Kearney believes that on home soil, they should have enough to overcome La Rochelle and avenge final defeats suffered in 2022 and 2023. They should have enough, he said, but they're dealing with a different type of pressure this year. For some of those players, it's as high as it's been in quite some time. La Rochelle, meanwhile, appeared to be rediscovering form after a sluggish start to the campaign, highlighted by last week's 66-0 demolition of Toulon. Inevitably, renewed speculation has surrounded O'Gara's future, with suggestions that Leinster could serve as a stepping stone back into Irish rugby before a potential move into the national role. Kearney was cautious. I can very much get on board with Ronan coming back to Ireland, he said. I have huge admiration for what he's done and the journey he's taken to become a better coach. But Leinster, I'm not so sure. The DNA of a club matters. History matters. Putting one of our fiercest rivals in charge, I'd probably sleep a little less soundly at night. For now, the focus remains firmly on the pitch, and on players like Jamison Gibson-Park to spark a revival. If Ireland are to travel to Paris with belief rather than doubt, this weekend may prove decisive.